1985 is International Youth Year. From the BBC in London we present a series of special reports featuring 6 young people from around the world. In today's programme we meet Evelyn Glennie, who in 1984, at the age of 18, won Britain's most important percussion scholarship, a remarkable achievement because, since the age of 12, Evelyn has been profoundly deaf. When Jerry Timmins met her, she was in her final year at the Royal Academy of Music in London, studying percussion and piano.
I never really knew how deaf I would become. I mean, when I first had to wear a hearing aid at about the age of 12, it was then that I realised that I was concentrating on a person's face and a person's mouth. I was not using my ears, but instead using my eyes. I was never frightened, really. I mean, and I never asked myself, well, why have I lost my hearing? Why has it happened to me? Because, I mean, if you start asking yourselves these sort of questions, I mean, you're just not going to get anywhere in life. I mean, I was still young, I had a whole life to live, and it just made me 10 times more determined. I must have convinced the top professional musicians that I can play in an orchestra, and they've accepted because they've told me. They've said that, well, if I auditioned for a place in one of their orchestras, they would probably give it to me. And so I've actually managed to make myself known as a musician and to put the music as a major part, and the deafness is, is nothing. I was born in Aberdeen, which is in the northeast of Scotland, and I went to a tiny, tiny little primary school that had about 45 pupils and 2 teachers there. It was a country school. I mean, I live on a farm. My parents are farming people. Then when I was 12, I went to the local secondary school, which was about 9 miles from my home. It was a big school with a good, strong music department. I started piano when I was 8 and percussion when I went to secondary school. I left school as soon as possible when I was 16 because I felt that although my school was very, very good, I felt that I was capable of going a step further. And what I really wanted was to go to a music school, preferably in London. So I auditioned here and was fortunate enough to get in. When I auditioned for the Royal Academy, at first they refused my application form and they said it was absolutely absurd having a deaf musician here because music to them meant having big ears, having good ears, but I had to convince them that really you don't have to have ears at all to play music or to play in an orchestra. You can do it without hearing. Because there's 2 ways you can hear. You can hear through your ears or through your body. And by that I mean being able to distinguish different vibrations. For instance, I've got a set of timpani here, and I'll just play you a very, very low note. Now I went the full range of that timpani, and the first note I played was very, very low. The skin was slack, and so I felt a lot of vibration from that timpani on the lower parts of my legs, through the floor, and the lower parts of my legs. And I knew it was a low note because of the tension of the skin, and because I felt so much on the lower parts of my body. As I went up, I can feel it higher up in my body. The skin is tighter, and therefore I know it's a high note, or higher. And place my hand either on the actual skin or on the very, very edge of the drum, and I can feel everything there. I can put my leg on the side of the drum, and you can feel the note through your leg. But I usually start from the very, very bottom of the drum and just work my way up, so that I know at least the range, where exactly the note is. And you just keep going like that. It takes a long, long time to tune a drum to one note. And you've got to concentrate so hard, and you mustn't try and listen through your ears, but simply through your body. There was one time when, actually here at the Academy, I was asked to play in one of the orchestras, and it was when I newly started studying here, and therefore the conductor didn't know me. And so I went along and I played the drums, and I don't know what happened, but I must have been picking up sticks or music or something, and the conductor had talked to me, had said something to me, and I hadn't answered him. And apparently this happened about 2 or 3 times, and he couldn't understand why I was never answering him. So when he met my percussion teacher said, "Oh, how did Evelyn play? Was it okay?" And so the conductor said, "Well, yes, she played fine, but she's a bit slow." And my percussion teacher said, "Well, what do you mean?" And so the conductor said, "Well, every time I talked to her, she wouldn't answer me." And then my percussion teacher said, "Well, you do realise she's deaf." And so the conductor, said, "Oh gosh, no, I didn't realise," and all that. And so he obviously thought I was absolutely mad. But that's the sort of things you've got to face. In everyday life, things happen when people get the wrong idea of you. If you go into shops, and if you've got to ask the shopkeeper to repeat things, or if they're not talking to you direct, then they just won't bother with you. They'll just think you really are mad, and they'll just walk away from you and don't want anything to do. So just things like that, you've got to expect them to happen and just accept it, really. But sometimes it's quite sad, but Before I went to secondary school, I was actually told to go to a special school or school for the deaf. And that would have been the worst move I could ever make. I just couldn't, because I knew that if I went there, all I would do would be lip reading and sign language. I mean, when they come out of the schools, they can only communicate with other deaf people. They cannot go up to someone in the street, ask them something and understand what they say. You see? I mean, at first they've got to say, "Oh, I'm deaf." And then immediately the man in the street is very, very apprehensive and sort of says, "Oh, could you deal with her or him or whatever," and walk away. And, you know, what can I say? It's just totally wrong. Absolutely. I mean, every child does have a talent, and therefore they're going to do what they want to do. Because whatever they can do, and whatever they enjoy doing, they can let out a lot of frustration that builds up within a deaf person. For instance, sometimes, because I get so fed up with trying to understand people, because when you're lip reading, you're working all the time. When you're watching television, you're working. But as far as music is concerned, I can let out an awful lot of that frustration by just playing whatever I want to, by banging, the instruments to smithereens. It doesn't matter. I mean, I've got music, and I can communicate with music. I think that the point that I'm trying to get across is that I'm not a freak, because up to now, and this is so true, people have said, "Oh, but you're extra special, I mean, you're not normal, I mean, how can you possibly play music if you can't hear it?" And they obviously haven't just stopped to think that no matter what, hearing people and non-hearing people will never ever understand how I play or my attitude to life. They'll never ever understand unless you yourself become deaf. It's a terrible way to say that, but I mean, I don't understand. I just do it. I don't care how I tune the timps, how I play, how I appreciate it. The point is that I do. I just do, and I'm going to get on with it. I've tried so hard to get my way, in that I've tried so hard to remain at an honest school. In fact, it wasn't very hard, really, because, I mean, my family have been fantastic. And I'm unique in that I work so hard, and I know I can do it. But I am not unique because I can play, but I can't hear it. And people have got to believe me when I say that. I mean, as I've said to you before, every child has a talent. One has to find that talent and exploit it just to the maximum. And that's all that's happened to me. I know what I can do. The deaf child knows what he or she can do, but he's just not getting a chance to tell people because, I mean, they're just being shoved away. And to me, that just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't. And it drives me up the wall.